everybody, how's it going? This is Edan of LightCycleAstrology.com. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Hope you had a great weekend. Today, we are taking a look at the astrology for the coming week ahead here between September the 18th and the 24th. And this is Mantic Monday, episode number 8. So, welcome aboard. I am in my Oktoberfest outfit that I don each year as Oktoberfest begins. Now, I know what you're thinking, Edan, it's not October yet, but strangely enough, in Munich, the third Saturday of September each year begins the Oktoberfest. And sometimes Oktoberfest ends before the beginning of October. So I don't know why they don't hold it in October, but in either case, I am celebrating the sort of getting into the spirit of the fall time because the sun enters the sign of Libra this week. So for me, I really enjoy these seasonal changeovers. It just feels like something new is coming, and I like to celebrate the different times a year. But of course, this is a really special time of the year because the changeover of a season happens. And this is also one of those seasonal changeovers that is, you could argue, maybe even more special than some of the other ones. And that's because not only do we change into a new season as the sun enters the sign of Libra, but we also enter the dark half of the year. If you are on the northern hemisphere, you're entering the dark half of the year for 6 months until the springtime. So a very special and important week is coming for the astrology, and the sun is making some pretty interesting aspects before he moves into the sign of Libra. So we will take a look at that today. Before we do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit notifications, leave me some comments. All that stuff really helps to push and grow the channel. And you can always go to lightcycleastrology.com if you want to get a reading from me. I typically spend about a week preparing a written report, and looking into whatever topic or situation that we want to find out about. And I use all sorts of delineation techniques like zodiacal releasing or secondary progressed new moons or lunation cycles, and of course transits and things like that. So if you have important changes coming up, or if you're just interested in finding out what's happening for the year ahead, you can always check out a very affordable astrology reading from me at lightcycleastrology.com. Okay, well, let's pull up the real-time clock and take a look at what is happening in the sky just before we move into Libra season here. So we have the sun on Monday right at 25 degrees of Virgo. So we're in the last few days of Virgo here. We've got Mars about 14 degrees into the sign of Libra, in the sign of his detriment. And we also have the beginning of a new lunation cycle. So this is just after a new moon that happened last week. Now, I want to bring your attention forward to Tuesday because this is the day that the sun perfects in opposition to the planet Neptune in Pisces. And this is partly what I think is really heralding this important changeover out of summertime into fall time. In particular, this year is this opposition that the sun makes to Neptune on Tuesday. And then we also have on Thursday, just a couple of days later, the sun making a trine, a perfected trine over to Pluto at the very end degrees of Capricorn. So those are the two transits that I think is really important to look at this week, that is bringing in some of the archetypal themes or stories that we may be experiencing right now as we prepare to move into a new season. And then, of course, by the time we get to the 23rd on Saturday, the sun moves into the sign of Libra. And this, I have the real-time clock set to London, so central time here at 6:50 a.m. London time. So if you want like the exact minute of when we enter Libra, that is when it is happening. You can convert from London time, 6:50 a.m. on Saturday the 23rd. So, and that's pretty much the week. So there are a few other things that are happening in the chart or in the skies, but I think that the sun's action really is speaking the big story this week, for me at least. So let's get into some of the archetypal themes to watch for. The first one, of course, going to be the Sun opposed Neptune theme. So, of course, when Neptune is involved, you do get that mystical side of life sort of coming out, and um, can it can really blend things that you weren't maybe paying attention to into the everyday mundaneness that we usually have to operate within. We're always so concerned with doing the things that we have to do, taking care of responsibilities, getting the kids to school and going to work, and just doing those mundane things. Sometimes when you get a Sun opposite Neptune, this can bring in kind of a mysticism. It can either make you just feeling a little bit more lazy, like you're just tired and you just don't feel like being so productive. And maybe this is a time where you end up just really wanting to relax and enjoy life a little bit more, maybe be like a potato couch and sort of, blend into a little fantasy and just sort of have that as an experience right now. And maybe this is speaking to, the Sun entering the sign of Libra. Hey, there's, the beginning of a new season. We're entering the fall time, and there's that sort of magic of the leaves falling off the tree. And it's like a time where the importance of family and the holidays are coming up. So I think that this Sun opposed Neptune is going to facilitate that potentially lazy side of us, but also potentially maybe themes that are mystical or spiritual. And there is also can be themes of something like a letting go of the ego. In modern astrology, the Sun is usually thought of as a symbol for the ego. And I think there is something to that in traditional Hellenistic astrology. We don't really use the Sun as the ego per se, but we can use the Sun as a symbol for the ego insofar as the Sun, from the traditional standpoint, represents the image or the direction or purpose that we are trying to sail our lifeboat in. So for instance, if there is a really important desire that you've been sort of steering the helm of your life towards, whether that's a job or career or relationship or, whatever goal or direction or aspirations you have within life, we can really hang on to those, and we can sort of get fixed in that notion and sort of be within that rut of like, okay, my life is about this and I'm doing this. And it just kind of keeps going for a long time. When the Sun makes important changes into a new season, the purpose or life direction can also, like the season, sort of turn or shift into kind of towards a new direction, or maybe in a new mode. And I think Neptune might help facilitate some of that imagination about how things can be in like more of an artistic, creative, spiritual, mystical kind of side. So you get a little bit of that otherworldly quality that is sort of coming in right now and saying, hey, what about this? Have you ever thought about this? What about this dream or this fantasy? And there might be a changeover of like breaking out of a rut a little bit, and realizing what could be that has more of a fantastic or a pleasurable side of things. There can be some tension there too, because if that isn't lining up with where you want to be, it might be hard to relate on some level with what is happening. And people can sometimes deal with that by just, sometimes moving into escapist like tendencies. Maybe this is a time where you just want to relax and be lazy and maybe enjoy Oktoberfest, drink a bunch of beer. It's a great time to do that. But obviously taking that too far is not good. But sometimes that is really healthy food for the soul as well. So that is part of the themes that are coming up at the beginning of the week here. And then a few days later, we move on Tuesday into a Sun Pluto trine. Not Tuesday, on Thursday, we move into a Sun Pluto trine here. So that is also a really interesting transit that happens before the Sun moves into the sign of its fall. In ancient astrology, the Sun was said to be fallen or depressed in the sign of Libra. Again, that's because there are going to be more minutes of nighttime or darkness within a 24-hour period if you're on the northern hemisphere than there is light. So the Sun is dominant, or there is more light in a daytime period for 6 months before this. This is the time of year where the sun fails or falls, and essentially metaphorically enters the underworld at this time. So you get all of these different combinations of themes that are fallen solar themes at this time. And what's really interesting is that the sun making a trine to Pluto, the god of the underworld or the god of Hades, it's as if the sun is saying, I'm about ready to surrender. I'm about ready to die. I'm at the end of my cycle or the end of my life. I'm moving into the underworld. I'm going to be moving into darkness and go through a process of being reborn that will happen again at the springtime. But before I do that, I need to contact this very intense, cathartic, powerful, subterranean place that is represented by Pluto. But it's a trine. So could moving into that space or making a contact with that theme somehow be of benefit? It's almost as if you're preparing to enter the underworld. And, as a child, there were times where my dad would take us places and we would go into caves, like spelunking just a little bit, not like all the time. But I have these memories of doing this a few times. And of course, you need a flashlight when you go into a cave because it's very, very dark. And one experience that I remember my dad doing is taking us into this really, really deep cave. I forget where it was. I don't remember. It was either in, oh gosh, I don't know if it was in Colorado or Montana, but wherever it was, I remember we hiked down into this cave, and then we were there all by ourselves too. There was nobody else around. And then we turned off all the flashlights. And this was before cell phones and all this stuff. So the only light we had was from the flashlight. But he shut off the flashlight, and he I forget what he said, but it was basically something like, look how dark it is. Isn't this is like real darkness right here. This is real pitch black. Like, you haven't seen darkness like you have right now. This is what true pitch black looks like. And he was right. I never did, there's always ambient light, usually wherever you are, even if you're in the nighttime or in a dark place or something, there's usually some light somewhere. But if you've experienced that in the cave, shut off the light completely moment, it's very, very almost like tangibly dark. Like, you almost feel the darkness. It's like a thick atmosphere. And you can't see anything, like even really close. And that's an experience. This is, for me, a little bit like that. This is like we're about ready to move into the darkness, but there's something good about that. There's something that's helping prepare our souls to do that, entering a time of year where there is going to be themes of regeneration, themes of the underworld, and things that need to be regenerated or transformed so that life can emerge again once more from a healthy place. And as we do that, it's like, are we shining a light on the dark corners of details that need to be looked at? Are we uncovering things that need to be looked at in terms of our purpose or life direction, things that have to do with our father or maybe our family, things that have to do with our job or career? And the sun in the last few degrees of Virgo is really preparing now to move into that very critical time of year that is dark. So you get the sense that a sun trine Pluto at this time is really shining the light on the details, right? Shining the light on the plans, really getting into some deep, dark places, potentially purging things that need to be let go of, potentially, looking at stuff that is emotional or intense that needs to be discharged, that helps us move into a different place. And it's like we are needing to remember that if we're going to move into a cave, we should bring a flashlight with us. So this is a little bit like that. This is a little bit like, hey, we're going down into the underworld. The sun is about ready to enter its fall. We need to have a flashlight. And more than that, we need to experience that feeling of the the darkness, or that feeling of extreme contrast where we have light within the darkness and it's really contrasted and intense. And of course, Pluto represents intensity. So those are some of the themes, but of course we could be seeing those themes in areas of life such as career or ambitions or purpose or desires. The soul is always conjuring up desires. So there could be a changeover of what we want for our lives, or the way that we are directing circumstances in our lives, being the leader of our lives. Those things could be going through a healthy purging or letting go, or examination, shining the light on, looking at the details, cleaning out the dark corners, like stuff like that is potentially coming up right now as we prepare to move in. And then there is all of this mystical, spiritual, creative, beautiful imagery that is coming in from Neptune at the same time. And then, of course, as the sun moves into Libra, now the sun is in the temple of the sun's fall or depression. This is a Venus-ruled sign. So the sun is a symbol of central authority or power, moves into a place where it is it's more easy for us to let go of the ego, to let go of our own central desires or central position. It's a place where, if you know Libran people, they are really capable of seeing the other's perspective, or being consciously aware of other people's, being very considerate of are other people feeling like they're comfortable? Is there harmony within a situation? That Venus-ruled depression of the sun is a place that is not so self-centered, not so ego-driven, and is more copacetic to things like relationships. So a very, very interesting time of the year. Also, we still have that Venus sextile Mars that is happening loosely between Leo and Libra. So the sun joins Mars in this sign, and there begins to be the hashing out of relationship things very much at this time. So that is the big astrology that is pretty much happening this week. And then by the time we get to Sunday, we're just getting used to this whole new seasonal kind of energy or motif that is happening. So that is what I have for today. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about this and how you noticed the motifs coming out. And we will be back again at the beginning of next week. We'll do either a new Mantic Monday episode for the week ahead, or we'll take a look at maybe some important astrology that's happening that stands out from the rest. All right. Hope you guys have a good week, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.